So that is what you need to do. All right. So let me start my discussion. Let me start sharing. Um, Let me know when you can see my screen, everyone. And the topic, I know that 4 or 5 exam is pending on you. I'm waiting for those exam. Most of you didn't submit them yet. Hopefully you'll be able to send them soon. But the topics that we are going to discuss today is the primary key and foreign key in Oracle database. Primary key and foreign key, right? So what do you do with primary key and foreign key, right? Do we open something with primary key and foreign key? It seems like it is a key, right? Right? What do you think? We get foreign visas by foreign key? Not really, right? So here in terms of database, right? A primary key constraint defines a column or series of columns that uniquely identify a given row in a table, right? Now, to give a specific example, okay, to give a specific example, let's say in US we have approximately 350, we have 350 million people, right? 350 million people. Now, obviously there is a big gigabyte database somewhere, right? There is a big gigabyte database somewhere where we have all of this count all of all of these people, right? All of this population database. There is a definitely there is a big database, right? In Pentagon or in National Census Bureau, right? Somewhere there is a big database. On that database, right? On that particular database, let's say if you are in a class in your university or in your college, right? You have a student ID, right? So let's say in your class you have 60 student, right? So you have a student ID and then another student have a student ID. So out of those 60 student, each of these student has a unique student ID that doesn't match with another student. And let's say that in my university, my student ID was 034016. 034016. That was my student ID in my university, okay? So that 034016 in my class, there were 60 students, and this was the only ID that I have, and no one else was having that ID, right? So, so let's say that if I create a database, if I create a database table with students, right? If I create a database table with students, then what will happen? 034001 is a student who has a name, who has a date of birth, who has a GPA. 034002 is another student who has a name DOB and then he has a GPA, right? In that way, in the class, 60 student will have 60 student ID. Now, if you search in the database, if you write a query, okay, select student ID, student name, student DOB, student GPA from students table where student ID equal to 034016. Then what will that query return? How many results will it return? Can anyone answer me that? How many results it will return?
Return with name, date of birth, GPA.
Question here, how many records it will return? Okay, how is it 3 records, Razabai?
Student's ID,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
student DOB, and student's GPA.
So, uh, if you can see my screen, guys, I have previously discussed with you what is a record, right? What is a database record? Understand what is a database record before you answer this, okay? Let's say if you consider this author's info table. In this table, how many record do I have? Can anyone answer me this?
Four record.
Okay, Nabed, four records, and someone else replied, four records. How it is four records? So each of this row is a record. Each of this row, Rajabai, the way you have explained, it will be how many records? It will be 12 records here, right? Remember, each of this row here is a record. Each of this row here is a record. This is a record. This is a record. This is a record, right? Like this, we have four records here. Now, if I ask you, okay, what is this particular thing? This is a field. If you consider, okay, in this table, how many fields do you have, right? Then this is a field, this is a field, this is a field. Okay. Now, guys, now a database table has a column, 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 right? Can you see this is a author ID? So that means we have how many author in this table? We have four authors, right? How many authors name we have? We have four authors name. How many book ID do we have here? Four book IDs, right? Okay. Now you understand what is record versus what is field, what is database column. Do you understand? Everyone, feel free to ask me question here. Each of the record has three fields. Does it make sense, everyone? Each of the record has how many fields? Three fields, right? Obviously, now you will say that, okay, this particular thing is a record. Will you say this? Okay, this is a record. This is a record. Will you say this is a record?
It's not a row. Full row is a record.
The full row is a record. This is a field. This is a database field. Okay. Now, so now let's say that if we consider my class, right? If you consider my class, in my class we have 60 students, right? Out of the 6 students, if you write a query, select student ID, student name, student DOB, student GPA from students table, where student ID equal to 034016. How many records you will get? One record. One record. You will get only one record. Is there any possibility that you will get more than one record?
ID specific
Mhm.
one record.
One record, right? Let's see. We have a colleague missing. Let's see if he is coming. Just give him a call. Give me a minute, guys. With that, so it will return only one. It will return only one what? It will return only one record. Now, let's say that the tables that you have created previously. Let me bring the Oracle screen here. Okay. This okay. Now let's say that, let me see if I have any table. DSC school. No. DSC students. What do you do with DSC? Yes,
Right.
that's right. Yeah. DESC DMV. No, I don't have. Let me see. DESC. All right. So let's say, guys, let's say I'm going to create a table like this. Create table. Um, let's say I'm going to name this table as ABC. Just a random name, right? Create table ABC, and then I'm going to say, okay, um, um, stud ID, but actually stud ID, yeah, butcher 2, and let's say I'm going to give size 6, right? And then I'm going to say stud name, stud name again. I'm going to say butcher 2, and then I'm going to say 15, right? And then I'm going to say stud. Actually, let's actually, yeah, stud stud GPA. I'm going to say it is a number, right? And how do you do number? Let's say we will have altogether 3 digits. After the decimal, let's say we will have 2 digits, right? Okay, the table created, right? Do you agree with me? Now, if you want to see, okay, the description of the ABC table, we have this stud ID, stud name, stud GPA, right? Uh, the first column is Butcher 2, where we have 6 digits, and then we have stud name 15 digits, and then we have stud GPA number 32. What does this 32 means? Can anyone explain? Right?
Where is it?
Let's
Decimal
say
point.
that 3.1, 3.50, right? 3.75, 4.00, right? So all of this, how many digits we have in this number? We have 3 digits, but before decimal we have 1 digit, and after decimal we have 2 digits, right? So number 32 means we have altogether 3 digits, and after the decimal point we have 2 digits. Okay, we have, after the decimal point we have 2 digits. Now, if I want to insert data into this table, right? Let's say select. Oh, how do you insert data, guys? I forgot. Can you help me writing this? Oh, insert. Okay. Insert into ABC. Okay. Insert into ABC. Stud ID, right? Let's say it is a bar chart. So I'm going to put stud ID as my stud ID 034016, right? My stud ID, and then let's say um okay. Now what will happen? Yeah, that is true. You will have to put that column name, and then you will have to put values, right?
Chapter balance.
Yeah, ABC. So you have to put column name, and then you'll have to put values, right? So I will see what happens if I insert data in that way. Now let's say, Nipa, what you said, yeah, you have to do it in that way. That is correct. Totally correct. I agree with you. But I want to try a different way. So and then stud name, let's say, and stud GPA, let's say 3.12. Okay. Now, if you put a semicolon and enter, what it is saying, ABC, it is complaining that um, there is a select keyword missing. right? There is a select keyword missing. It is complaining about what is that select keyword? Yeah, you will have to put that. You will have to put that values, right? Now one row is started. Now Nipa, I will answer your question. I know what question you want to ask me, but remember, if you want to insert data into a table without the column name, you can insert it. If you put without the column names, you can insert the data. I will answer your question, but before that, let me insert another. Let me insert another. Is there any complaint when I'm inserting the same data again and again in the table? No complaint, right? Now, if I do select star from ABC and then if you put a semicolon, how many records do I have? 3. And who are they? All of them are same people, right? Same people, same information. Now, if I write a query in this way, select star from ABC, where stud ID equal to stud ID equal to 0344016, right? How many did I got? 3. But I supposed to get only 1. So Razabhai, what is the problem? You said I will get only 1.
Unique ID is the same, name is same, DP is same. All the
That's why it is coming. So if the ID is more than once in a table, then it is not unique anymore, right? Like we have 3 records. Each of the record has same ID, so it is no longer it is a unique ID, right? Now let's say what is happening. Let's say you are creating a population database, right? So when you are creating a population database, then let's say people are you are you are at a common place and people are coming and you are inserting data into the table. So there is a possibility you will be inserting same people more than once, right? Like if you do not have a production of duplicating, if you do not have a production of preventing duplicating entry, then you will be inserting the same people again multiple times, right? Same people in the table multiple times.
like for SSN for everybody in USA. When they give the new SSN, they'll check this SSN is available for another person or not. If not, then they provide the new one.
So how do they check? Let's say that USA has 330 million people or 350 million people. When they give an SSN, how do they check? Okay, this SSN is no longer used. How do they check? Big server, in that server could be like, what will be the mechanism in this server? How will you verify? You cannot check. You cannot check 350 million record individually to check if that SSN is particularly used or not.
They have a server. It's okay.
And software check it if it is already used. So what is the mechanism software used to check it? But that software that you are talking about, right? That software, human being, that software was made by human being, right? So like you and me, what was their thoughts? What was their you know, working process on this? How do they make it?
Developer and the tester test it after that.
I see. Okay. So developers and tester test it after that. So we are testers. We are not developer, but we are tester. How will you test it? Okay. Now, guys. So here is the thing, right? It is a very simple mechanism that we are going to now learn to make sure that when we are inserting data to a table, right, it will not take, let's say that this 034016, this student ID, if you have already inserted a student with that ID, you should not be able to insert another student with the same ID, because that ID is unique. Only one student has that ID. So on that table, only one entry should have that student ID, right? That is unique. So we will learn how to prevent that. Now, before I go for that, okay? So let's say now, if I insert data in that way, let's say, now, can you see the complaint? In that complaint.
So there is a value. I think there is more than two values. You give one value.
Mhm.
Main data there is more than two values. So comes that not enough. So
Okay.
there are more values.
So what is happening here? When, Nipa, when you are inserting data in that way without giving the column name, remember this. When you are inserting data in that way without giving the column names, then you will have to supply all of these values. If you supply, let's say, one value less, you cannot insert data. As an example, you can see here that when I'm supplying two values, I'm not able to insert the data into the table because I'm not giving all of the data. I have one more column, that is stored GPA, that I'm not supplying. Do you understand this? Yeah.
How or do you
Hmm?
you don't have
What is that? Okay.
you don't
Now let's say that, Nipa, let's say that when you are supplying data without the column names, remember this, you will have to supply all of these values. Whatever, let's say the table has four or five columns, you will have to supply all of these five data. If you do not give the column name, you cannot insert without those names. Now let me show you. I can insert two data. Instead of three, I can insert two data, but how, right? Let me show you this. So now you will have to put here. So what are these? ID, comma, name, right? And no, you go to the next line, you put values. Now, what is the value that you want to put? Let's say again 03 01 01, and then name is, right? And then you finish. Oh, there will be a problem. That's fine. Let me correct it. Stud name, and then let me remove this. Okay. Now, put,
after general put a inverted comma. Bracket.
yeah.
Comma, yes.
Now, was I able to input two values instead of three values? So remember, the safest way to insert data into the database table is you put the column names and then you put the values. Then you know that you are assigning values to the column name. And in that way, if you have to insert data, let's say you are not inserting the complete data, you are inserting partial data, you can insert the partial data. If you do not put the column names, you cannot. If you do not put the complete column names, you cannot insert partial data, right? Do you agree with me on this? Okay. Okay. So everyone, do you agree with me, Sharmin, Rajabhai, Nabed, everyone? Okay. All right. Sounds good. So now, if I do a select on this table, right? Select star from A B A B C. Now you see that three three of the row has all of them, but two of the rows, one of the rows doesn't have a GPA, right? Can you see when you inserted, we didn't insert a GPA for that particular row. Now, do you understand what we did so far? One problem here that the table is allowing me to insert duplicate data, right? We will have to prevent, right? We will have to prevent inserting duplicate data into this table. That is what we are going to do now. We are going to prevent how to insert duplicate data into a table. Now, that is where our primary key and foreign key comes into picture, right? So, if you take a look, now let me go back to this document. Let's say we are creating a table, something like this. One more table here. Let's say enable editing. Okay. Seems like if you want to do something good in something, you will have to enjoy it. You will have to find interest in it. It seems like a lot of you guys are not getting interest, right? Remember, if you will if you want to do be successful on something, you will have to enjoy it. It will have to be your passion. So let's say that, oh, actually you are not able to enjoy something because because of the complexity or because something you do not understand, right? But still you want to be successful. What will you do? You start putting more time on it. You start investing time on it. You got it? So let's say that this computer science topics, it is appearing a little bit complicated to you, right? So what do? You simply, but you want to be in successful in this field. What you want to do? You want to invest more time on it. You want to put more dedication in it. You will start loving it. Okay. Now, let's say that we have a table student students. Let's say that students underscore details. Okay, students underscore details. And then in this table, you have, let me insert a table. Let's say I have 5 columns and I have 6 rows. Okay, I'm going to say stud id, stud name, stud dop, stud email, actually let's not put email, stud dpt, and then stud gpa. Okay, and then let's say that we have a student id, let's say s 1000, right? S1000, and then stud name is, let's say, DOB is 90, and stud department is, let's say, CSC, and stud GPA is, let's say, 3.50. Okay, then the next student that we have, what will be the ID for that student? Can anyone tell me some ID that I can insert here? Okay, what is that? As let's say S2000, right? And then his name is what? John. Yeah. And then his date of birth is 04, actually 05, 05 19 1991, and his DOB is Tripoli, and his GPA is 3.40. And then we have another student as 300. His name is, let's Mike, and then his DOB is 0705 1995, and his student department is, let's say, ME mechanical, and his GPA is 3.25. And then we have another student. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's say his DOB is 2000. He is in civil, and his GPA, let me give him a little bit more GPA, right? Seems like more GPA. All right, we have the last student in our table. What is his name? What is his name? Listen. Okay. And then what is the GP? What is the date of birth you want to give him? 09 0923 1999. Okay. And then what is his department? Let's give him architecture. Okay, let's put architect. Okay, and then his GPA, let's say he has a perfect GPA out of 4. Okay, so now we have this student details table, right? Now let's say that let's come to the next table. So we are going to say teachers details. Okay, and then let's say that we are going to insert another table. Okay, now teachers ID, and then teachers name. Actually, let me make a little bit name here, name as well. and then let's say teachers faculty, teachers faculty, right? And then we are going to say stud ID. Now if I say T 1100 and teacher's name, you want to give some teacher's name. Let's say I'm giving some teacher's name. Teacher's faculty, let's say hmm? I assume this is let's put some relevant faculty here, like so that we can relate it with the student. Let's say he is a ME faculty, ME, he is a teacher in ME department. Or let's say that instead of faculty, let's put it title. Right? Let's put professor, okay, and then let's say he is associated with student ID as 3000.
I think everybody should have the right teacher.
If you have any favorite teacher, bring it on. Okay, what is that?
Dr. Johnson.
Okay, doctor. Let me put a doctor. Okay, you want to put Dr. Johnson. Let me put Dr. Johnson, and then his title, let's say associate professor. Okay, and his student, let's say S 5000, and then let's come E 300, and his name is what? Doctor. What name you want to give? Dr. AB. Okay? I'll take your teacher name for the next one. Let's say he is a assistant professor, and his student is S1000. And let's say the next teacher is T400, and his name is Dr. Martha. And then she is a lecturer, and her student is 400, 4000. And let's say our last teacher is P500, and her name is Dr. What? Naved, your name you said?
Is Jackie's.
Okay. Now, let's say he is a lecturer again. And
The title doctor or she or he can be a lecturer.
yeah, still they can be lecturer. Let's say that they were very brilliant student. They did their masters, they did PhD afterwards, and then they went for job.
S2 and 2000.
Let's say his student ID is S6000. Okay. Now, so you will be creating, when you are creating this table, the first table, make sure stud ID is a primary key, so that you cannot input same student ID multiple times. And then when you are creating this table, make sure teachers ID is a primary key and student ID is a foreign. Okay. Now, by looking at these two tables, can you explain what is that student ID doing? In the second table, we have student ID. What is that student ID doing?
Is the last student S600. That student ID is not in the first table.
It is intentional. It is intentional. I will you will see why we have inputted this, right? But now tell me what is the purpose of putting that student ID in the second table?
The primary, the both tables.
No, not really.
Common, like the common ID.
So we want to create relation, right? We want to say, okay, this student ID, right? This T100, he has a student, right? His student is 3000, and that student, so we can say that Mr. Atkin teaches Mr. David. Is that correct?
Mike.
Oh, it's Mike. Yeah, you are right. So, how do you know? Because this,
And here, two
we,
ID.
yeah, we are associating student ID with the teacher. That's how we can create the relation. Is that correct? So, what, like, I know. So, primary key, what does primary key do? Here, if I say this student ID is a primary key, this primary key will uniquely identify each of the record from this student's table. Uniquely identify means you will not have more than one student with S1000. So if you declare student ID as a primary key, then it will ensure that you are not able to insert S1000 more than one times. So it will always be unique. Let's say the social security table for US, right? Where we have 350 million people, right? Will you have a person, will you have a social security number that is associated with two people in that big database? No. Each of the people will have their unique social security number. There is no chance, there is no chance two of the people will have same social security. Is that correct? If you see someone is roaming around in the road with your social security number, what does this mean? That means he's illegal, right? If someone is roaming around in the road with your social security, that means that guy is illegal in this country, right? And US Census Bureau will make sure that that guy is not in the database, in their database. If that guy go to a census office and show him, okay, this is my social security number, please input me in the system with a fake ID, when they will be trying to input him, they will, that is already booked. That social security number is already booked, right? So
I have a one kind of not like an infection, but the people sometimes have a fake call us and you get an offer and that or you get a job. So I'm really
Mhm.
so if people we get offers or somebody how they will work with the company because when they put up their
So let me tell you this. With your social security number, nobody will be able to work except you, right? Except you. Some people, they will be able to work in gas station with some fake social security ID, but those people will not be able to use this social security number with for any legal purpose. Okay.
They change their whole name and everything, address, uh, like for my address, they using for everything. So,
So if your social security number is hacked, right? That is one thing. But again, whatever way, someone will have to pretend that he is you. He cannot create a duplicate entry in the SSN table. Does it make sense? All right. So here, if we declare that stud ID as a primary key, it will ensure that we are not able to insert a duplicate entry in this table. And then, right, and then if you declare a field as a primary key, you cannot remember that you saw in the previous example, right? You saw here that I was able to input data here without this value. Is that correct? I missed a value here, but I was still able to insert data. Have you seen this? But if I define that stored GPA as a primary key, then I cannot leave this empty. So the primary key cannot be empty. You will have to put a value. Does it make sense? If you declare a field as a primary key, it cannot be empty. So this is what primary key is. Primary key will uniquely identify each record in the table and it cannot be empty. Do you understand what is primary key? Did I explain it clearly? Any further question? That is what we are going to do soon. Charmaine, can you hear us? Okay, all right. Now, let's come to the foreign key, okay? Now you see this foreign key, right? This stored ID will be a foreign key if we declare it correctly. Now what it will do? It will be pointing a primary key of another table. As you can see, this foreign key will be a primary key of another table. And it will relate data between the tables. Okay. So what is foreign key? A foreign key is the primary key of another table which relates data between two tables. Okay. Now let's go back to this definition here. I have the definition for you. I'll sending you this document, right? It will be not null. It will be uniquely identifying each of the record in a table. How do you declare a primary key? To answer Nipa your question, okay? Now can you see create table books and then book ISBN bar chart 2. If it is a primary key, just you put that word after that primary key. That's it. Simple, okay? There is another way of declaring primary key. We are not going to learn it. We are going to learn it in the simplest way, okay? We are not going to complicate anything. Then you come to the foreign key, okay? A foreign key is a constraint that's added to a table. It allows you to specify that a column in a table refers to the primary key of another table. It is used to relate data in two tables and improve the integrity of your data. What is that? Improve the integrity of your data, right? Integrity, remember this word. So if I say, okay, this person is very strong, his integrity is very good, what does this mean? This person is a man of word, okay? Now, foreign key, right? How do you declare foreign key, guys? Refer here, okay? Now, to define a foreign key, right? To define a foreign key, you put the column name, data type, right? And then you put references, okay, from what table and from what column name. Let me come to an example. Can you see? Create table author's info, right? Author's ID is the primary key of that table, and author's name is a varchar. And remember, book ID from another table, right? We are going to say what is the type, and then we are going to use that word references. And references, what table? Books table. And what field? Book ISBN. Okay. So now I am going to go to practically. I'm going to do this practically for your understanding. Okay. If you haven't understand so far whatever I have discussed, don't worry. I'm going to do it practically now. This primary key and foreign key. Remember, it is a complicated terms for you in this database course. So yeah, let's do it practically. So the table that I'm going to create is this uh, student details and teachers details. Okay. So here I'm going to create table, and what is my table name? Students underscore info, and then okay, what is the first column that I have, guys? Let me just make it a little bit smaller. Okay. Now let's come back here. Okay. So uh, the first the first field name is what? Stud underscore
Student info or student details? Should we
students
match?
students details. That's fine. Info details, same thing. What will be the varchar? Varchar to let's put 6 or 5. Let's put 6. The next one is name, and then again varchar 2, and let's put 10. And then next one is stud dpt, right? Oh, stud dpt. Okay, stud dob, and then varchar 2. And how many I need for this? 10, right? 12 or 10? Yeah, 10 is there. Let's put 10. So dob varchar to 10, and then what do I have? Then I have stud department, right? Stud department. Again, what will be the stud department? Should be maximum how many digits we have? 10, right? Okay. 10. Now what is the stud underscore g e a? It will be number, and it will be 3 comma 2. Now, so what is the requirement? Student ID will have to be a primary key. Do you remember this? So if it is a normal table where there is no restriction, you can insert any record. then that is how you declare. But if you have a restriction, if you have to declare that stud id as a primary key so that you cannot input same record again and again, so what you will have to do here, you will have to declare this as a primary key. Does it make sense? Now if you press enter, the table is created, right? Now if you want to put a description, esc students underscore details. What is our table name, guys? Students info. I see. Okay, so in this case, let me put this as students info. Okay, so here, if you put description, students info. Now, what do you see, guys? That not null is new. That stud id you have declared it as a primary key, and it is appearing not null because it is primary key, right? You understand? Okay, so that's good. Let me insert quickly data into this table. Insert into students info, and then what are the column name? Stud id name, and then stud gob, and then stud dpt, and then stud gpa, right? And then you go to the next line, values, right? What are the values? The first one is what? How many values? The first one is stud id s 1000, and then you have what? Name David, and then what do you have? Date of birth. What is the date of birth? Okay, 1990. Okay, and then what do you have? Department CSC, and then what do you have? 3 point. Oh, this 3.50, will it be in the inverted quotation? No, 3.50, right? So stud GPA invalid identifier, right? What is the problem here? Oh, yeah. So here stud GPA, and then being this value. Are we good? The next one is what is the S 2000? 2000. What is the student name? John. And then what is the his DOB? 05, and then 19, and then 1991, and his department electrical and electronics engineering. What is his GPA? 40. Okay. Okay. We have the second record. Now let's bring the third one. Okay. What is the third stud ID? S 3000, right? 3000. What is his name? Mike. And then what is his DOB? 0705. 05 and then 1995. 95 and then his dividend is M and his GPA is. Okay, let's go to the next one. It's 4000. The name is Edison. And then his DOB is 0613. 13. 2000. Okay. 2000. And then department is civil. 75. Let's bring the last one. 5000. Listen, and his DOB is. R. Oh, 1999. Okay. And his GPA is. Okay. Now we have everything there. Select star from students underscore info. Do we have everything there? Looks correct, right? So what will happen? Let's say, guys, let me tell you. Let's say insert, right? And if you try to input the same record again, previously you were able to insert, right? Do you remember? Now, if you try to do that, what do you see? Unique constraint violated. Remember, you have declared that student ID primary key, right? That is what it is complaining about. It is complaining about that you have this as 5000. You already have it in the database. That's how they make sure that once an SSN is already used, you cannot insert the same SSN again. Yeah, whatever information you put that as 5000, you will not be able to insert it. Even with the same information, even with the duplicate information, even with some different information, as long as you have that as 5000, you will not be able to insert it. So now you understand what is the purpose of primary key. You can only see the information, yeah, and thus you make sure that you have only one entry for that person, not more than one entry. Okay, clear about primary key? Okay, very good. Now let's go to the foreign key. Let me bring the other table. It is interesting topics if you understand. If you do not understand, it will be a little bit difficult, but try to understand it. If you understand, it is easy. Okay. Now you come back to this teachers info. Let's not put teachers details. Teachers. Now we are going to create another table, right? Create table. teachers underscore info, and then the first thing is teachers ID, and what is that? Bar chart 2 what is the size of the teachers? Say 4. 4. Okay, let's put 4, and then name. Bar chart 2, and what is the size? Let's say 12. 10 is maximum you counted. Okay. And then title. 15. The last one is to underscore ID, student underscore, again varchar 2 5. Now, so that is your end of your table. If you have to declare it as a simple table, this is how you will be declaring it. But remember, there are some terms and condition here. The first terms and condition is you will have to declare a primary key, and then you will have to declare a foreign key. Right? So first of all, this teacher's ID will have to be a primary key, right, for this table. So you say here that this is a primary key, and then that stud ID will have to be a foreign key. So after the stud ID, you say references. It reference to what? It reference to the what table? It reference students info table, right? Students underscore info table, and from that table, what is the column it is referencing? Stud ID. On that column, what is the column name we are referencing? Right? Now you understand. So if you take a look, right, when you are declaring that stud ID as a foreign key, you'll have to say that, okay, after the declaration, okay, stud ID varchar 2 5 or 6, whatever you add that word references, and it is referencing what table? It is referencing students input table, and in that table, what is the column name? Stud. That is what I did, guys. Now if I bring this whole query, can you see create table, teachers info, teachers ID varchar 2 primary key, name varchar to 10, title varchar to 15, stud ID varchar to 5, references. Can you see this word references? And can you see what table? Students info. And what is the column in students info? Stud ID. Who does have a question? Does anyone has any question, guys? I'm expecting question. Guys, you want to ask question, or you do not have a question? No question?
Following so far.
Good. So I was expecting that there will be question. I allocated some time for this. Since you do not have a question, can I take a short break? Let's take a 5-minute break. Let's come back at 11:41. Yeah, I'm recording. So we have created this table. Actually, let's come at 11:45. 11:45. Let's give you 9 minutes, okay? But make sure that you are coming in within 11:45, because I will be starting exactly at 11:45. All right? Break started. Let me pause the recording here. Recording. For the foreign key, you declare the field in the second table and then put this references word and then put the table name from where you are referring this students info and then put the column name there. Okay, now let's try to insert the data for this particular table. So if you take a look here, if we go back, teachers info, right? We have T100 and Dr. Edkin, and then we have professor, and then as 3000 is his student, right? So if I do insert statement here, let me make this one a little bit smaller, and then if I do a insert statement here, insert into teachers underscore info, right? And what are the column name? Teachers underscore id, comma name, comma title, comma stud underscore id, and then you bring your values. Values. How many values do you have? We have 4 values here. One is T100 and then put a comma and then put Dr. at key and then put comma and then what is his title? He is a professor. And what is the student ID is S3000, right? So one row inserted. Okay. Then you come to this next one, right? Values. The next one is T2000, then Dr. Johnson, Dr. Johnson, and then you come to associate professor, and then his student is S5000. Teachers info name, teachers system teachers info name, right? The name is too big. Dr. Johnson. What size did we put here? Yeah, no problem. I'll take care of it. But how many characters we are inputting here? Johnson, Dr. Johnson, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. How many?
Seven. Doctor has two.
Sharmin Nipa, are you there in the call? Oh, okay, okay. All right. So here, how many characters we have in Dr. Johnson? Because of the space, right? Remember, do not forget that space. Doctor dot and after that there is a space. Okay, so but since we have declared it with 10, we can only capacitate 10. I'll just remove this space and then I will insert. Oh, still it is too large. Teachers info title, right? This title, how many characters we put? It is now complaining about the title. Hmm? Associate professor, how many are we inputting? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I'll remove that to facilitate. Right, got it? Okay. So we inserted the second one. Now let's go for the third one. Okay. The third one is, what is the T300? T300, and then what is the name? Dr. AB. AB. There, let's put a space. And then what is their title? Assistant Professor. ASST. And then let's put this space. Professor. And what is his student? AB's student S1000. Okay. Let's bring the next one. The next one is T400. T400, and their name is Martha, and then lecturer. Lecturer, and then it is fourth. Okay. And then the last one we have T500. 500 Dr. Zakir, same as lecturer, and their student is now what is the problem? Now you tell me what is the problem. Remember I said a word before, integrated. So if you bring this table, right? If you bring this two table here, let's say that right. If you bring this two table,
See the I can listen to you, but I can't see your black screen of.
you can see the back screen. So you need to bring the correct Skype screen. I think you are looking. If you click on, can you see the Skype on your address bar? Over there, you bring window where I'm sharing screen. Can you see now? Not yet. Not yet. Can you see my screen, Razabai, or not yet? Okay, drop off from this call. Let me add you back. Now can you see? Okay. Now when I'm when I'm trying to insert this 6,000, right? It is complaining that integrity constraint violated, parent key not found. What does this mean? That means if you take a look at this screenshot, this 6,000, do you see this 6,000 in this table, stored ID primary key? That is what it is complaining. So in this two table, in the second table specifically, you can insert a record only when you are, remember you have references that this stored ID will have to be in the info table as a primary key. Whatever you are inserting here, right, this particular part, this will have to be in the students info table. Now this 6,000, do you have it in this table? Right, that is what we are maintaining data integrity. Integrity means everything, you cannot input all of the garbage here. You will have to input something that is like, can you see this reference? You will have to keep this reference appropriate. The reference that you are putting here, it will have to be in the primary key column of this students info table. That is why we referred this stud id in this teachers info table as a foreign key. Now you understand what does this foreign key do? Does anyone has any question on this foreign key?
If you want to put it the last column, we also added the student info with the 600.
What is that?
6,000, no. Violation of the system.
The the condition was, Nabed, remember, the condition was we have declared, when you declared this table, right, this teachers info, we put stud id as a reference to this students info table, to this stud id column. Now whatever you put here, this value, there will have to be an entry for this in this students info table. If you do not have that entry, you will not be able to input this one in this second table. That is the purpose of the foreign key. You got it? If you do not have this relation, you cannot input the data. Whatever you are putting for stud id in this teacher's info table, that value will have to be in the table.
So, Joyba, what about the student ID is 5,000? Not in the teacher's info.
Yeah, the student id has 5,000, right? This one you are talking about, right? No, this one is there. Can you see as 5,000?
So, what about the 2,000?
2,000, we did an insert. We did insert. So we did an insert, but if you want to insert, it will have to be in this table. You can insert 2,000 because 2,000 is, yeah, 6,000. 6,000, 7,000 or 8,000, it cannot, because it is not there in this students info table. Yeah, yeah, that is correct. Sounds good up to this, guys? Any question? Nipa and Sharmin, ভাইয়া তোমাদের, if you could speak up. Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, that is correct. Yeah, if you wish, let's say if you do not need to use some of them, yeah, that's fine. But you cannot use anything in this teachers info table that is not there. But if you want to skip, let's say I skip 2,000, I didn't need to use it. You can do that. Any further question? Okay, so I will leave this. Can you see? I'm going to send you this updated document. I did this table. Now you will have to do this books and authors info table. Remember here, books ISBN, books name, book type, right? And then authors, right? Authors and book ID. Book ID is that book ISBN. Remember book ID, right? Here the name is book ISBN, here the name is book ID. This book ID is referencing the book ISBN of books table. So you'll have to create that by yourself. Does it make sense now? It can be different, but the summary here, when you are creating this table, book ID, you will put okay, bar chart that many, and then you will be putting references, books table, and in the parentheses, you say books, book ISBN. You got it? Is it clear or you have further question? Okay, all right. So in this case, this is our discussion about primary key and foreign key. We'll have another discussion on join, and then we'll be done with this database part. But make sure that these exams, 4 or 5 exams, this primary key, foreign key, you will have to submit it before I declare, okay, we are done with the database part. There will be a final exam that I'll send you. You'll have to send it back to me. But before that, you'll have to send all of these homeworks to me. Okay? Sounds good? All right. So let me just do a quick thing. I'll stop this recording because it is getting too long. And I'll start another recording for that ALM class. Let me quickly stop this recording.